So welcome again, Bolanle, and welcome to every single one who's joined us this afternoon or morning, depending on where you joined us from. And today we're going to be talking about raising children with additional needs. And our guest barrister today is someone who is not just talking as a professional, but also as a mom who has experienced raising a child with special needs. Now, I know some of you may know her, but because of those who don't know her, I'll just tell you a little bit about her. Bolanle Adewole is an Advanced Certified Autism Specialist from IBCCES and a Behaviour Analyst from the Florida Institute of Technology. She's the founder and executive director of TLPCentre, the first full-day school for children with autism and other related developmental disorder on Lagos Island, Nigeria. She's also a certified Primary and Elementary Montessori practitioner from London Montessori Centre and the executive director at the Learning Place Montessori School, Lekki, Lagos. And she's passionate about holistic child development. She drives autism awareness and advocacy, and she continues to engage in the empowerment and fluent integration of differently abled children into communities and mainstream schools. I could go on and on and on, but she'll tell us more about herself. But that's just a little bit about our guest barrister today. So Bolanle, welcome, and over to you. Tell us, let's start with, when we say additional needs, raising a child, what does additional need mean?
So basically, additional needs is synonymous to special needs.
Okay.
Child has a health, developmental condition that is impacting on their everyday life. They're said to have additional needs. So if you have a child who you need to do a little bit extra for, to put them in the right frame of mind or to get them to partake in daily activities, then you call that child a child with additional needs. What it basically means is, so all of us typically would have children that we find that you sit on the couch and they are just getting by within your home. But with types of children, you cannot just always sit on the couch. You have to be deliberate about what you've put in place for them. You have to be around, you have to be aware. And, you have to just put certain things in place to help them be able to coexist with you within the same environment. And if it's a school, you have to also be aware of their presence.
Yeah.
Create activities for them, have other children around them that understand who they are and are able to relate with them in a different way from the way you would deal with a neurotypical person. So that's basically what I mean by additional needs.
Okay. Thank you for explaining what that means. But tell us your story. How did you get into this area that you're in now?
Okay, so my story. So as a person, I started life, I'm now how old? 50, I believe 52. My husband always says I add 1 year to my age. So I have to. So yeah, I'm 52 years old, and I started out my life believing that I was going to have, the best life, which I still believe I do.
Yeah.
But in terms of best, how we all expect our lives to go in a certain way. I wanted this dashing looking man, and I wanted to have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and end up in Ivy League universities and become professionals. Anyway, to cut my long story short, I then started my family, and my first...
Oh, but first of all, you met the dashing looking man, didn't you?
In fact, he's beyond my dreams. Dashing and also very kind, good, devoted man. Yes, so yes, I am blessed in that way. And with children, so we started having children. Then I ended up having a boy and a boy, which I also have absolutely no regrets about. But then my second son, as we started to raise him, we found that he was different. So now I'll use the term additional needs here. So Muni, his name is Muni. Muni is 19 years old. So Muni came into our lives, and I just realized that Muni had a different way of learning. Before Muni came, I had been working with children for a decade.
Okay.
I had worked in the UK. I had worked in the US. So I believed I was a guru. 10 years of working with children, you believe, oh, there's no child I cannot handle.
Yeah.
And also coupled with the fact that the schools I worked at, my class was always like a demo class. They referred to my class as the class that was, operating in the best way. So people would typically be drawn to my class. So I knew how to work with children. But then here comes my second son, and I noticed something wasn't quite right about him. I noticed that Moni was just, he wasn't, but he started talking. Okay, so maybe I should start from where he was growing up regularly. Typical, I
Yeah.
mean, it looked typical like my first son. But what I observed with him was that he was fixated on certain things.
Okay.
So with him, it was Thomas the Tank Engine. He would take the engines and spin the wheels and do all these things that appeared a little bit different. But because I'd been working with children, I noticed something wasn't quite the same. And as he grew older, into 18 months, he had some words, but the words started to decrease. He was using words appropriately. He would identify the bottle of milk. He would identify mommy, daddy, dada at the time.
Yeah.
But suddenly, at about 18 months, 19 months, he started to talk less. He was no longer communicating with these words, but he was now still playing with the tank engines, and he loved all those and carried on with them at full bloom. But I, as a teacher at the time, already guessed something was not right, but I didn't know what it was. So
Okay.
I'd been working with children for 10 years, and I had
Yeah.
never heard the word autism.
Oh
I'm
wow.
sharing this because if something is not at your doorstep, you typically would not even recognize it. You don't
Yeah.
even, a lot of us do things based on what we find in our environment
Absolutely.
or what we know about. So we don't go seeking things that we do not know about. But what you typically will find is once you get to know about it, the very first day that, okay, somebody already wrote Moni is not different, but unique. Indeed, he's very unique. Yes, you get to hear more about him. So what you find is I had never heard the word, but then when I heard the word autism, I thought, the first person that mentioned autism to me, I didn't think was, I just disdained and I dismissed the person immediately because I'm there thinking, excuse me, when I Googled autism, I thought, no, my son cannot have that. That's not what's going on. He's just not doing this yet, and he will get there.
Yeah.
But forward, we started seeking assessments. We started seeking opinions. At
How
this time,
old was he by this time?
so by this time he was, I think he was about 20. So he was two and a half, three, about almost 30 months, 30
Right.
months. So at this point, we realized, okay, it doesn't look like this thing is going away. And even my husband at the time, his mom told us he was like that,
Okay.
that, oh, you were exactly the same way you weren't talking. And when he was extremely active, very hyper. And so we heard things like, well, that's how boys are. This is how to, but anyway, fast forward, we came back. So at the time, we had just relocated to Nigeria
Okay.
to live in the US, where I am right now. We lived in Maryland, and we had just relocated to Nigeria. So we had just started our new life in
Mm.
Nigeria. The school had just started. The Learning Place opened in 2004. We relocated in 2003. And here I was in 2005, early years, finding out that something was wrong with my son or something wasn't quite right. And I thought, am I going back to the US? Or are we staying in Nigeria? Anyway, we came to
Mm.
the time, but the US we came to at the time was primarily a fact-finding mission. On a fact-finding mission, we wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah.
It was confirmed that he had autism, and we got him into some sessions here. But I realized immediately that I was not going to live here. I wasn't coming back to live in the US, so that was not an option. It was noted. Yes, indeed, something wasn't right, but I felt, how do we fix this and how do we take it back home? Because at this time we had started the school, and the school was already thriving.
Right.
And what I'm even seeing now, it looks like I've seen it on one or two children at school in Lagos as well. But we
Okay.
didn't have a name for it. We just felt these children were a little bit extra. They did this, they did that. So it made me sit down and, rethink my goals, rethink my objectives. That, okay, yes, so we've started the school, we're doing this, but Anyway, we did what we needed to do, and we went back to Nigeria. So at this
But
time,
let me interrupt you, because the way you're just saying it, it's as if you just accepted it. What was it like for you finding out that your child was autistic?
so for me, I thought God has a sense. My first thought was, God, you have a sense of humor. You're joking with me. That was what I always thought. I think the day it finally dawned on me, I sat down and I wept. I wept for you because I just sat down. It was myself and him in there at the time. And I sat down, I was watching him run from one end of the wall to the other. So he would just continue running. He would run from one end to the other. So initially I thought, God, this is not real. It can't be. So I guess that was my way of dealing with the denial. So I think my denial went on for about at least the first 3 months. So for as long as about 3 months, I kept on thinking this is a joke. It's not happening. It's not, this is not what it is. It's not that thing I've read about. It's not that thing people are saying it is. But I sat there. But I think the day finally dawned on me, even with all these diagnoses, with what they had given us in the States, I saw it and I thought, autism, okay. But I think it finally dawned on me one day, anyway, about 3 months into it. But when it dawned on me, I knew, okay, this thing has not fallen on. So I'm also spiritual. I believe so much in God, and I know that everything happens to everybody for a reason.
Yeah.
So I knew that, okay, whatever this is, God would never give me too much to bear. Whatever this is, He has also equipped me with whatever it is that is going to help us deal with this. Although I hadn't seen it, I didn't know what it was, I didn't know what form, but I just said, God, I knew that, okay, whatever it is, God, it's in your hands. I've left it to you, and I know that once I've left it to you, then I'm living my life, I'm moving on. And earlier on also, I'd heard, go back to Nigeria, take this thing home, and I would raise people to work with your child. And my own focus, the assignment he gave to me at the time was focus on all the other children around you. Don't focus on Moni. Focus on all the other children around you and watch me do my work.
Wow.
So, this is big, but I heard this very clearly. I heard it more than once whilst I was in my quiet times. I remember one of the teachers at school one time coming to meet me and saying, Mrs. Adewole, it looks like you don't care about money. Yes, I remember very clearly. I remember the teacher very well. She says, people are going to South Africa, they're going to these places, and you are not doing anything with money. You've just left him here in school, the learning place. He's doing this, he's doing that, And I just smiled. I said, don't worry, in God's time, we will do whatever needed to be done. But I still carried on. So I was interfering more with what's wrong with this child? Why is this child not doing this in school? I was no longer worried about money. But yes, I just believed it was done somehow. And we just carried on. So people started to understand him better. I found people that were interested in him at school who wanted to work with him, and it carried on. But to cut the long story short, that part of it, I found that at the end of the day, Moni started to transform. I mean, we did a lot of things. We put a lot of, so I make it sound simple, yes, but a lot of intervention went on behind the scenes with him. We got this, the therapist that came home at the time. We had therapy in school. We had therapy in anything else that we could do. But what I found that worked the most for Moni, yes, the therapies were, but it was his exposure to life, exposure to environments. So we found that he thrived better when he was amongst neurotypical people. So it was not enough for him to be with the neurodiverse. So he was in neurodiverse environment for intervention. But around the neurotypical people, Moni started to bloom. He started to do things because he was learning how to behave. There was a lot of imitation going on. He saw how people behaved. He saw how people operated. And it made him start doing the same thing. He started to live his life and do things. What Moni has as a skill today, his most prominent skill is in music. No one taught Moni how to play the piano. So this is still part of why I believe that God indeed says, I would raise the dust for your sake. Don't worry. So we did not get Moni a music teacher. We got the music teacher in our house at the time for his brother,
Right.
Ayomiku.
Okay.
So I had the music teacher coming home, but the music teacher was quick to tell us that Ayomiku is not as interested in the piano as much as this little brother is, because the little brother kept going to interfere and disrupts the class when they
Right.
start classes. And that's how the whole music thing started. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you have the situation of this nature, you know, you always have your dreams in a certain way, and you have you believe they will go that way.
Yeah.
But when God does his things, you know, God's ways are not our ways.
Yeah.
And you know, whenever he does his thing, if you trust in him just with that little faith, you
Yeah.
find he would do everything according to his plan. My own purpose, which I have now found,
Mm-hmm.
is my purpose has always been to work with children,
Yeah.
but my purpose was not to work with typical children only. But
Mm.
I would never have found this purpose were it not been for Moni.
Yeah.
And me, remember, would have been my accidental child, because that wasn't the child that I wanted.
You wanted to go.
Yeah, my personal desire, that wasn't the child that I wanted. I
Yeah.
wanted, you know, this kind of, but what I found is by the time I started trusting God, I
Mm.
found that I was doing many more things and I was fulfilling my purpose more. You know, if I would say I am so fulfilled as a person. And why I'm so fulfilled, I wake up daily smiling and thanking God for what I'm doing, because I found that I've been able to cover wider grounds. I am here today not because I'm a Montessori teacher.
Yeah.
I'm here today on your platform
Yeah.
because I'm a mother of a child with special needs,
Yeah. True.
also an educator of
Yeah.
children. I have stood on many platforms just because of this, not because I'm an educator. So as a mere educator, as an educator, was for me, it was, yes, that was one, it was ordinary.
Yeah.
But I extraordinary when I started to work with these people. And what I found with it is everybody's purpose is embedded somewhere. But
Mm.
when you find the purpose, it takes you beyond. And the purpose can come as an accident. It can come as something you did not even imagine, something you did not anticipate, something you did not desire.
Yeah.
But when it does come, you accept it as it is and you just move on with your life as it is. So with me, accepting money became something I did, you know, in time. It didn't take me up to 6 months to accept. Yeah, I think the first 3 months was when I kind of struggled. But after the day I cried the whole day, I woke up and I knew, okay, this did not drop on my doorstep by accident, but I'll get up and do something with it. And that's why I'm here today.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, let me ask, could it have been easier for you because you were an educator already? So, what would you say to someone who just found out that their child has additional needs?
Okay, so for
What would be
me,
the first steps? Yeah, go on.
so it wasn't easier because I was an educator, because like I said, I had never heard of autism. I didn't know what special needs was. So even I had a hard time working with Moni when we first discovered. But what I say to anybody that has gotten a diagnosis or that has an inkling that there's something wrong or something not quite right with their child is get up, get out and get help.
Get up, get out, and get help. Fantastic.
Yes, don't sit there imagining that it's going to just go away. For
Mm.
some people, it goes away, but I'll say for 90% of people, it does not go away in that manner. So don't wish it away. Wish it to work. I mean, get something to begin to address it.
Yeah,
I would say if you notice, so the first thing is to equip yourself with what developmental milestones are.
yeah.
So the mental milestones generally will be the universal yardstick for measuring progress and growth.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to know that at age 1, my child should have a certain number of words by or let's start from 3 months. 3 months old, they're able to maybe sit up, and by 8 months, they're doing this. They're crawling at a certain time in their lives. They are speaking by a certain time in their lives. You know, so you just need to know what it is that is supposed to happen. So as a mother, as a parent, just Google developmental milestones. And if when we say that you can lie to the whole world,
You can't act yourself.
you can lie to yourself in your quiet moment.
You
Sit
know.
Like that, all these things that I have seen as developmental milestones, does my child have them?
Yeah.
Is my child doing them?
Mm-hmm.
If your child is not doing those things, get up
Yeah.
and look for the services you have around you that address those issues, or go to your pediatrician. Go to your pediatrician and find out from your pediatrician, okay, what do I need to this is what I've observed with my child. And also some pediatricians also will tell you that it's okay, don't worry about it, it will go away. Because I found also that, so you have pediatricians who themselves are the ones that don't allow you to do what you need to do, or they don't encourage you to do, because they tell you, oh, this happens. So, but with you, tell them what you want, tell them what you have observed. That I've observed he's not talking, I've observed he's not pulling up, I've observed he's not doing this. Anyway, by the time you have shared what you have observed as a parent, then the onus is on the pediatrician to begin to direct you in the give you the right direction, give you the right advice, and tell you, go to this person, go to that person. But what you then, you have gotten your developmental milestones, you go to the pediatrician, you get your child assessed.
Okay.
So assessment is best done by a team of professionals that would include a speech and language pathologist, a child psychologist, probably a child psychiatrist, or a pediatrician, um, a behavior analyst, or an occupational therapist. But make sure you have the child psychologist, speech and language pathologist, and the pediatrician, or psychologist. Those people are present. So they all sit down and review your child together.
Okay.
And it's a multidisciplinary approach that is best in terms of the day they give you a report. When they give you a report, they also will give you recommendations. So it's not enough for them to say, oh, this is what's going on with your child. They would also then tell you, these are the things that you need to do, the recommendations. Follow the recommendations. If there's things you can do at home as a parent to do them, they'll tell you things like talk to your child in this way, play with your child in this way, these are things to do. So they'll tailor make the recommendations to what they have observed with your child, and you start to do them. If they're not things that you can handle on your own, give it to them at the school. Make sure you always share a copy. A lot of parents do these assessments and they keep quiet about it. They keep the reports with themselves at home, and because they still don't want people to know that there's anything wrong. You have parents.
Let me interrupt you there for a second, Bolanle, because that's what next thing I was going to ask. It's that thing where there's still a stigma and shame attached to, and I think sometimes it's a lot of other parents don't help.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when my kids were younger,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember things. So you hear people say that, oh, at this month, my child said this word. Or when my child was walking by this month, my child, And then when you find out, when you think, my child is not doing this, how do I say to the other parents that my child is not doing this? Then you start to put yourself under a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So that's normal. Remember, I started out with how everybody wants the perfect child.
Yes.
So the first thing is, your child has come to you and your child is not perfect, or does not appear to be perfect. Because I would also tell you that at the end of the day, these children are perfect, but I'll explain. I'll come to that at the end of it. I hope you remind me to tell you how they're perfect children. But so what you'll find is the denial is normal, but what it is, and that's why I'm appealing to your inner soul. I'm appealing to you as parents in your quiet times. Your neighbor will see that something is not right. You may see, but the moment they tell you, you fight with them. Go to their house. A school tells you, you pull your child out of the school immediately. Meanwhile, you also may be seeing signs. When people are telling you, please, those are people that already want to begin to help you. Don't push them away. Those would not be the people to push you. Of course, except them, making fun of you, or except, they're being sarcastic, then, you should be able to sense that. But people who genuinely have come forward to profess some kind of solution to whatever you find yourself in with your child, you definitely need to listen to them and get whatever it is that they have advised you and begin to work with it. Otherwise, you'll find that and so that was the main thing I was saying then, was about how some people even would have the diagnosis. They have home, they go to school and they don't even mention it at the school. They just bring their child as regular. So the school will then observe something and call the parents in, and the parents still never share. I'm saying this from a place of, it's an experience I've gone through. Our school, the Learning Place, is going to be 18 years old this September. And in my 18 years, I have seen this happen over and over again, such that at the end of the day, you say something like, you mean you've been this far, you have this kind of document, and you let us go through all. It's easier. It's easier when you share. Then everyone knows, and all hands are on deck towards the same common goal, the same purpose. You get the best results with your child when everybody is doing the same thing with your child. So we see the child is always in the center. So it's a triangle. As a the person in the middle is the child. Then parents, we have home, and we have intervention, home, and school. So all three of you always speak the same language. So if you close it from school and goes for speech therapy somewhere, and you hide it from the school, then the child comes to school the next day, is doing something else that is not the same as what they did at speech therapy. Child goes home and you're speaking a different language that is not the same at school and at intervention. It's all modeled up. A child that improves faster, that you get best results with, is a child who everybody is doing something unanimous. We're all working together towards the same goal, and we are going after it as and when we need to. But so basically, when you find people that are trying to help you, please do not push them away. Listen to them, but of course, you also have to be careful, because everybody comes now with their own advice. Everybody suddenly becomes a professional. I know many people who tell me what to do. And I know many people who will try to tell me, do it this way, do it that way. But indeed, you do it this way, do it that way, but you do it with from a place of knowledge. You inform yourself, you equip, you do a lot of reading, do a lot of research, and have one or two professionals that you speak to. Of course, have your spiritual support as well. Have people around that you pray with. Through it all, prayer is also very key. Prayer, in fact, prayer is not even also, prayer is mainly key, because prayer would always lead you to the right place. When you go to God, find yourself waking up and going to the right people, you find yourself in the right environment. Have a strong family support.
Yes, that's important.
Very, very important. I remember my sister, for the greatest part, used to run from my son. She would sit, whenever I took money to her house, or whenever she was in an environment where money was, she would sit back. And, when she would sit back, fold her arms as he's coming near her, because then we called him Super Mo. Money was, always running, very active. So what happened then was she was not interacting so much with him. And I noticed this. She would interact with the older brother. And sometimes when she even wanted to talk to him, she would tell the older brother, ask him what he wants to eat. Ask him this one, ask him to sit down. So what I did to her one day was, one Saturday, I told her I was coming over, that I wanted to, quickly grab something. But what it was I wasn't going to grab anything. I was going to dump money at her house. So that day I told her that I was cut around the corner, but it was all planned, because I felt this cannot be. I need to determine if this sister is on board with me or not. My child, and this child is going to be there forever. So I brought my child to her house. Anyway, cut the long story short, she always tells that story as well. But after the one time that I dropped him off at her house, from then on, she would even ask me, oh, where's money going to be? Is money at home? Can we come and be with money? She started to understand him. So with family, it's very important that you enlighten them. Initially, they may be afraid that they may not handle it. If it's those people that have very dainty homes, they don't want break something in their house, show them how their homes can be child-proofed. Yeah, for your child, and have a room in the house where your child can come to, but have family on your side. At least you be nice to your family, be there for your family, and they'll be there for you. When you have a spouse that is very supportive, it's also a very good thing. With me, I've been very blessed, very, very blessed to have the husband I have, to have that person as Moni's father, because he has been a very strong pillar. You know, most of what people see on the outside that looks like Bolanle is really working, it's actually Deyemi has really worked and Deyemi is really working. You know, so I give that to him, but not everybody has that.
Has that, yeah.
So I need always very when I say this with caution as well, because some people, just the fact that they have this child has broken the home apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you find father has walked out, he's gone, or mother is, sometimes it's the mothers. You know, I was amazed when I came across a dad who came to our center and he was a single dad. He says, "Oh, mom couldn't deal with it, and you know, she just left the child." And so we can be anybody. And please do not blame people for work for doing that. We can judge them and try to say, yes, bad father, bad this, but everybody has a reason why they do their things. I don't want to judge anybody, but what it is okay, daddy is not there. What do we do next?
I guess
So
we all have a threshold we can handle. Yeah.
we definitely do. So what is most important is this person isn't there. How do I now begin to work with my child alone as a single mom, as a single dad? It's not easy, but have this support around you. So the support system is extremely important. It can be your community, it can be your church, it can be the school environment, it can be the play center that you go to, it can be your friends. It can be anybody, but ask God to help you identify and recognize the people He has called to. It can be strangers.
Yep.
It can be strangers. It can be anybody. But what is most important is that you have the support system. So you get respite. It's a lot for one person to handle, especially in those early years. But what I also want to tell every parent is that it gets better. You know, I'd always heard this, that as they grow older, they outgrow certain things. So it depends on the needs. Okay, so what we didn't talk about initially was we have additional needs in different forms. So it
Yes.
can be psychological, it can be physiological. So it all depends on what it is. So for people who have children that may not be mobile, you know, because when we say it gets better, you're thinking, my child is still not walking. How does this get better? But what it is you, by a certain age in the child's life, you know how to deal with them better. You have taught your child how to be independent with mobility. You have taught your child how to do, so a lot of things are you put them in place as you go. One very key point that I always make to parents is whatever the needs are, please teach your child to be independent.
It's so important.
The worst thing you can do for your child is to do everything, child. That's the worst thing. And the analogy I always use is, who knows the time or day? If you drop dead tomorrow, is everybody going to work with your child the way you work with your child? Are you setting your child up for failure or for success? When you think about it in that way, because I always think of, I'm giving Muni all these luxurious things, or I'm trying to give him all of that. What if I'm not there? Is everybody going to be able to give him what I'm giving? So that already,
so important.
yes, that for me becomes one of the reasons why I feel, Muni, wake up, go and take your bath. I'll show you how to do it. So show your child how to do whatever it is that they can do by themselves. A lot of them can do a lot of things, but you find that the child with special needs would have a special nanny, especially in Nigeria, where nannies are accessible. You can have two nannies for one child. You have your driver, you have your cook, you have your this. So yes, it's nice to have all these people helping you, but at the same time, are they really helping when they have to feed your child? I come across people who may not even have some neurodiversity, but you find that parents will tell you, oh, the nanny feeds him at age 5, age 6. You know, so it's extremely important that as parents, we equip our children and empower them by letting them do.
Bolanle, please, and this is not just for kids that have additional needs, for
No,
all
no.
your kids, because sometimes you find the kids are so spoiled that they can't do anything for themselves. Yeah.
It's for all children, because you don't want to be the one to you don't want to be the reason for their downfall at the end of the day. And always that thing at the end where they cannot stand alone, and you find that the children who have been taught to do it alone, they come and they just overtake your own child that you have had all these years thinking that the pampering is what's necessary. Anyway, back to so support system is extremely very important, and explain to people what's going on with your child, where the need is, where it's necessary. Not everybody understands them. So before, when Moni was younger, if I walked into your home, for instance, I'll come in and say, oh, good evening, sorry, we're going to be flicking your switches a bit. He will come in and he's going to look for all the light switches. It just like the way the light comes on and off. He turns it on and off about 3 times, then he sits down. So once you know that, so explain your own child's nuances to whoever it is that you've gone to visit. And but for those who already know you, they themselves, they've left it as in, okay, go and flick. Because once they've done that thing, they have different sensory needs.
Yeah.
Has their own different unique needs. So for those who have sensory needs, it can be the light, it can be it can be the noise, the sound. They just like to hear a particular sound, or they don't want to hear a particular sound. But once you know who your child is, get into a place and explain to them, and you move on. So now, having a child with special needs is not a reason for bad behavior. It's not a reason why everybody should understand, because we also we have this entitlement mentality as children with special needs, and we just always think, can't you see that my child has special needs? Doesn't mean your child has special needs, so you should go and pull another person's bowl of snacks, or go and grab it from another child, and you say my child has special needs. Every child, even with additional needs, can learn. You just to understand that the training is necessary. If the training there and you show your child. So with our children with special needs, the training is hard. It can be hard at the beginning, but when you have achieved it, even you give yourself a pat on the back. Because with them, why I say it's hard is because things have to be broken down into smaller components for them to understand. We call it task analysis. As behavior analysts, it's called task analysis. So to brush their teeth, you go through 10 steps. So step 1, take the toothpaste from here, take the toothbrush from there. Step 2, unscrew the toothpaste. Step 3, the suitcase, the toothpaste. You're checking each item. So as you do it, you check the item. You know that, okay, number 1, he has done it. Number 2, he has done it. That's how we taught Moni a lot of things. So we did it through task analysis, and with him as well. And then we had 4 sections of the mouth: upper right, upper left, bottom right, bottom, and then the tongue. So you have all those different things. So when you have broken it down to them, they begin, and you've done it repeatedly. So they're creatures of habit. They would imitate, they would learn what you have shown them, but you have to show them the right thing. But the worst thing we do as parents is to feel they cannot learn. So my special needs, so I treat him differently from my child that is neurotypical, because I expect that you know how to do everything. Moni does not know how to do it, so help Moni. So I'm telling the brother to help him all the time. First, the brother is going to have an issue with it. That's where sibling rivalry comes in. You find that the brother suddenly feels like you like Moni more than you like. Moni is getting all the attention. And guess what? Even these neurotypical children, if they start to feel that way, it can affect their psyche. It makes them, the line, you'll have people who they behave in a certain way and they'll tell you, oh, well, mommy never had my time. She had the time for X. So you need to be careful as a parent to empower them, so you don't treat your special needs child differently from the way you treat your neurotypical child. Treat them the same, but you give and that's where the additional needs, that's why we call it additional needs. So you give additional support. So that's one who has the neurodiversity. But it doesn't mean treat him differently. If you're going to punish your neurotypical for taking something from the fridge that you did not authorize, you're going to punish your neurodiverse for taking something from the fridge that you did not authorize. Now, if your neurodiverse cannot, if your a child with additional needs cannot walk, then that's a different thing. You are given the support to work, but it doesn't mean that the brain is not functioning. So you need to put things into perspective and understand who your child is and what the issues are. But don't just generalize and think because he cannot do one thing, that it means he cannot operate in other spheres of life. He can, and you need to understand that and begin to give all what is needed to that child to help the child thrive.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you for explaining that. The other thing, I did a bit of research for the UK anyway, and I found out that at least 1 in 100 people in the UK are in the autism spectrum. So I don't know what I don't know what it is for Nigeria and America and all of that. So it's more common than we think it is. But again, thank you for explaining how parents should deal with it. Now, the other thing is you're a Christian. And I guess some of the people here are Christians. What about this thing where you have faith and there's nothing wrong with that? You pray, but then you want to pray the thing away, pray autism away, it will go. Or even your pastor is telling you that, don't worry, this one will pray it away, and it doesn't. I know you said you've experienced some of that before. So please help explain to our people that it's God that gave you this child with additional needs, and it's not the devil. So please explain, help us.
Okay. So like with everything I've said, you would notice that everything I've said, I always go back to how denial and how dream. So going back to the dream also, it's nice to understand first that even the pastor had a dream of who the child should be. He's a human being first before he became the pastor. Yeah. So I always try to think of things from the perspective of human first. So human first means you have feelings, but human first as a spiritual person, it means you have this higher power that you look to. You know that everything is sorted out for you because we know we have this to tap into from. We have God as our source and all of that. So when we have God, you know this with our faith. Our faith is such that it's invisible. You don't see it, but there's a manifestation. You're expecting something. So we're expectant because we have faith. So in expectations, we also believe that there's nothing God cannot do, which is true. To know that faith without works is dead. So God would not come from heaven and do it for you. He's not going to come and help you lift your child out of bed and put him in the car. He's going to show you how to lift your child out of the bed and put him in the car. So if you understand this and know that, okay, and then with you also, he doesn't change developmental milestones. It's what we call developmental milestones. It's just stages of developments, different levels, what you expect. So God is not going to come and say with your child is going to, I'm going to come and this would happen. It would all happen, but it's happening with people. He's going to raise, remember with me, I said he raised people to help me. So with you as well as a pastor, he's always going to raise people to help you. But what is important is that you need to understand that because of we serve God, he's faithful, he will do it, he never fails, he never fails on his word. If he says it, he will do it. So have all the scriptures, but also understand that he's not a respecter of persons. So if that person has had it, I can also have it. But he's going to give me a solution to this situation. So I was talking to you yesterday, and I talked to you about how I've come across a pastor before who was in total denial, who everybody was, telling him, but he just felt, no, there's nothing wrong, especially because he was a deliverance minister and he knew how to do all the things right in church. And for him as well, he was doing deliverance on his child at home regularly, but the child was deteriorating in school. So the child that was 1 and could have gotten intervention by age 4, still not talking, had not started any form of therapy. And the child in school was at age 4, it's now standing out more because the peers were talking. At age 1, it was cute. At age 4, it's not so cute because now everybody's doing certain things and your child still isn't. And you're doing deliverance only at home. Pastor, wake up. It's no longer deliverance at that point only. You're still believing God, but at this time you're praying for God to direct you to the right people. You're praying for wisdom to take steps at the right time and do what is necessary for your child. But it doesn't wish itself away. It doesn't always go away just by you willing it away. You have to take steps active steps and understand that your God will sort everything out. And who knows, you don't know the silver lining, what is there that you're going to find and unfold as soon as you start the intervention. But the worst thing you can do is to not get intervention at all and think that it's going to be, it's just like a sick person who doesn't take medication. You refuse to take medication because you believe God will do it. Some people die just from that. So you don't want to have your child, you don't want to have your child's deficits. If it grows up to be totally unable to do things, you don't want that to be on your hands. You don't want it to be it's because of what you did not do. And there's a phrase we typically use a lot within our space. We say early intervention is key.
Okay.
Early intervention means the earlier you got the help, the faster it is to get solutions. So what we believe is that children's brains are malleable.
Yes.
So from ages 0 till about age 7, although research is now proving that age 8 you still have space. So, but from the first years of life, 0 to 7 years or 0 to 8 years, what in those years stick with the child, because the brain is forming and the brain can still take a lot of information that you put in those years. If you and I now, Sister Funke, if we try to learn French, and you've learned French before, first, I've been trying, I've not been able to speak the French, you know, and you find that even if you learn to speak French, you're very likely to speak French with an accent.
Yes.
I mean, even English, even the British English, you will probably speak it with an accent that is not fluent like that of those people who are real Britons. But if you had a child, a 2-year-old child, put that child in daycare, that child is going to speak fluently.
Yeah.
You're at home in an environment where you've raised them that's not Nigeria. They speak very, very fluently. And that's still, it's a testament to how the brain works. So the same thing with a child with special needs or additional needs. If you give the child intervention in those early years, it sticks. It becomes part of who they are and they're able to thrive and grow with it. But if you do not get any of those things and you believe it's going to happen. So some people come at age 6, and age 6 is the first time they're trying to get intervention because they have lived in denial the first 6 years of their child's life. They've taken the child to a typical school. So nobody wants to go to a special school. Nobody wants to go to a place where they give intervention because their cousins or their neighbors or people will know that there's something wrong with them. That stigma thing that we talk about. It's extremely important that you understand this and you know that regardless of the situation, I'm going to get help for my child. I always say something that it's better to get help and find that there's nothing wrong at the end of the day than to get help at all and find out that there is something wrong. By this time, it has already, it's become exponential, if I can use that, and it becomes harder to deal with and that. So my last point, I don't know, I can see that we're running low on time. I wanted to talk about how that part of bedroom me. So I wanted to talk about, yes, so people with additional needs, what you find is what we call these additional needs just means they are different. So a person with these needs is not less. That person is only different. So the person is, so even when you have twins, the same that lived in your tummy in the same sack, you find that when they come, when they finally, even identical twins, they look exactly alike, but they behave completely differently.
Yes.
So the same way a person with additional needs is different is the way you and I are different. They are skilled where we're not skilled. And we are skilled where they're not skilled. So find a person with all these needs not talking. That should not be all that you see as a person. When you see them, you see a human being first. And the next thing is, what can he do? What he have? What is innate in this person that we can bring out? What can we do? You know, a lot of people, the first thing they do is they see a person with special needs and Piam, can't do. Whereas if that person came in and did this and did that, that person would better your environment. You have many of them that are highly skilled in different ways. They impact the world. I could go on,
Yeah.
you know. So, the end of the day, we have people like Einstein that is said to have had something. We have even Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is said of Microsoft. Look, he created Microsoft,
Yeah.
but look who he is today. We have Elon Musk of Tesla. This is the reigning one now. He said to Asperger's, look at Tesla, look at what he has built, the kind of empire. So we have a lot of people who have had all these diversity, but they have been given the opportunity. When you give them the opportunity, you give them the space, you give them the platform, they thrive. They thrive and they bring what you and I can. Their own brains are different. Some of them are very robotic in their approach. They touch things. I was telling Stephen that I went to a center just what day is today now? Saturday. I went to a center on Thursday in San Jose, and I found that they're raising children. They call them twice exceptional. All the children there were weird, so I can use that word weird, you know. So they were weird with their behavior, but they were doing things. They were putting apart a microwave to put it back together. They were learning how to do those types of things. So I thought, wow, I can imagine what these children are going to produce in the future. But they're children who, if we found them in a different environment, the first thing is he's behaving badly.
Yeah.
This is bad behavior. And the bad behavior becomes what we use to judge them, especially in Nigeria.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, we have this thing where a child is not learning 1, 2, 3, 4, and the child is not talking, and already we have put the child in a box as incompetent. That child is not incompetent. That child has competencies in other areas. If you tapped in, you will find that, oh, wow, you mean he could do this? That child can become the star for your school.
Yeah.
Where he's doing some kind of artwork. He's drawing. You know, some of them have this skill. There's even someone in the UK there, Stephen Wilshire, who goes on a helicopter ride and able to reproduce the landscape of whatever area he rides on. Google him, Stephen Wilshire. And what we find is, even with this young man, he flew the helicopter ride in New York, and he was able to reproduce the city. I mean, the parts that the particular city, to the point of even knowing the number of windows that are on each building. He drew it exactly as it was, and he went on the helicopter ride once.
Wow.
Once. Can you do that? With my son, his own skill is in music. When he produces some pieces that even where we were 2 days ago, he still played for them. He's played in this place now, about 3 different places, where they're so amazed, and they're telling us to put him in this, put him in that, sign him up for this, sign him up for that. You know, but what it is with Moni is you sing even a song never heard.
Yeah.
If you sing, you're going to sit down and produce it on the piano. Just, I mean, flawlessly. So he hears it once, he hears the tune once, and he's playing from start to finish without anybody teaching him. Yes, photographic memory. So that, and we also call it synesthesia. Synesthesia is also synesthesia.
Synesthesia, okay.
Using one sense to feel another. So they have, they see, for instance, you say a word and all he sees are colors. He's hearing it. I mean, he hears it, but he doesn't hear it. He doesn't take it in as a sense. He doesn't take it. So you're talking to him, verbalizing, but he's not hearing you. All he's seeing are colors, and he uses the colors to reproduce what he needs to produce, and it is faster than everybody else because they just have a different way of connecting. I mean, the kinds of things they can do is it will take another day altogether. But what I'm just saying is, always understand that they have their own innate skills, and if you empower them. There's a young man in Nigeria, Ziza, that paints art. He does art pieces. Not only him, there's another young girl. Oh, Christine. So there's another girl. I mean, they're coming up in Nigeria now. So there's Christine. I forget her last name, but they were at Terra Culture, and they do things with pupils. You find that these children already are producing some art pieces that are incredible. I have bought 2 from them also, but their art pieces are already worth quite a bit as well, and they have their own collections. So, but if you see them, are they talking? Maybe not. Are they behaving the way you expect children to behave normally? Maybe not. But who's normal anyway? At the end of
I like that. Who is normal?
am I normal? You know, so when you see all these things, you just think, who is normal? Who defines what normal is? What's important is this is a human being. What does he have? What carry, how can we use it? I think with that, you'll move on and you'll be able to produce much more in the world.
I love that. And that's the truth. Who is normal?
Nope.
Really? We're all weird. We all have
Very,
different things.
very, very, yes.
Wow. Okay, before we go on,
Mhm.
if you've got any questions for Bolanle, please put in the question box. So she said she'll answer your questions. Any question whatsoever, she's here to answer those questions. Bolanle, you said to remind you about perfect children. Is that what you just spoke
Yes,
about?
that's what I just about them
Okay.
being very able to do things and being perfect. Better than you and I at the end of the day, but it's
Yeah.
just us understanding that and being able to, being able to accept it.
Yeah.
Once we accepted it, we're able to live with it and work with them.
Okay. So any questions? And I've got one more question for you, Bolanle. It's about the way people behave around children with additional needs. Please, how can you educate us better? Even the words that we use. I remember you explaining to me about special needs and additional needs when we were talking yesterday, and I thought that was so insightful. So how can we? What are the things we should not say? Thank God you gave the example about your sister. But how do we help parents with special needs, additional needs children, so that we don't make them feel shame or that stigma thing again, because that's the key thing. What do we
Okay.
do?
So first there's politically correct language
Okay.
that we try to use now. More and more, we're dropping all the terminologies that connote negativity.
Okay.
So things like we could have had this today and we'll call it something with disabilities.
Mm,
We don't believe they're disabled. We believe they're enabled in a different way.
love
You
that.
know,
Enabled.
so once we begin to drop terminologies, we're not just calling them the child with this, the child with that. So we were talking yesterday, and I was telling you about even hearing impaired, um, visually impaired. We don't say deaf, dumb, or all those words that are connoting negativity. So it's very important, first and foremost, that we understand that. Another thing is for people who ordinarily see them, okay, so maybe I'll come from the perspective of children in schools.
Yeah.
So children in schools can be bullies. They can laugh at other children who they feel are not able to do what they can do. Even with neurotypical, you find that this happens where I'm not your friend, or they gang up against the other. But what is most important is to teach everybody. It's creating more and more awareness campaigns, helping people understand that the difference is not, it doesn't make them less, helping people understand that you can empower them in this way, and that way begin to showcase more and more of the skills that they have. A lot of people, some of the people who are in denial are not only in denial because they expected perfection, they're in denial because they don't want people to be that way with them, or to begin to label their child. That with there was a parent I met just before I left Lagos who says, "Mrs. Adewole, whatever is going on, I just don't want the label." And I said to her, "It's okay. We would not give the label. Let's not even work with the label. So sometimes it's nice to just work with what you see. What are the signs?
Yeah.
What are the characteristics that
Right.
we see? So if you identified characteristics, not talking, you already know the solution. You don't have to say not talking, call it a professional name that is big and scary. And this is now for professionals. So by the time you have all these things that are not labeled, so the labels are good to get services. So
Right.
if you're in places like the UK, or you're in places, all these parts of the world where they give all the services for free,
Yeah.
those times you need to have a label.
Label. Okay.
But generally, label is good because with the label it will help you get the service. But to be honest, don't dwell on labels. Dwell more on the recommendations and the interventions that we can use. What are the things I can begin to do with my child? First, get the low hanging fruits.
Okay.
Low hanging fruits will be, what can I do as a parent? If I do this, he's going to talk. So for little babies or little children, for instance, who are always pointing,
Yeah.
so you children who maybe not babies now, age toddlers, age 1.5, 2, who would not talk. They just take their moms, they drag them by the hand and point at what they want. We say to parents like that, always give the name of that thing when you get there. If the child takes you there and points at the milk, you tell the child milk, milk. And after a while, you begin to expect, before you give the milk to the child, you tell the child milk. So the child begins to mimic what you're saying. The child may not say milk, but the child may give the sound, is enough, and the child the milk. And in all of those things, so those are kinds of recommendations you'll find when you go for intervention services. And once you have those, you're able to move with it. And it makes you feel less of as though there's something wrong with you or something wrong with your child, because you're now empowered to do what's necessary, and you begin to do that with your child. But the worst thing you can do is to think, because they're going to give you the label, or for people who are also the ones that are so for people who are labeling, understand that nobody is perfect. Understand that even you have your own defaults, which was what I said earlier. Who's normal? So we're not normal at the end of the day. So knowing that we're not always, not everybody is normal, would help you know that, okay. And then even from this place where we're spiritual, in the church, somebody just wrote now that even in the church, they can be judgmental. So when you're sitting in church and you're judging somebody else just based on who their child is, and then you now sit down and say the whites judge the blacks. Also, so we're saying they're racist. We're saying you are also racist in your own way. So whatever word you want to call it, if you accept everybody, let them prove themselves, then you're able to embrace different characteristics, different abilities, and you're to empower them, and they're able to thrive. So with me, I would say just teach everybody. Teaching is, some people are like that because they don't understand. With my sister, she didn't know how to deal with him, so she was wary. But once you show awareness, once you have sessions, so this, what you're doing today is, it's super. I applaud you 100%, because this will create awareness. It lets people know that there's nothing to it. There's nothing to and there's nothing that cannot be resolved at the end of the day. But if you already come out with the mindset of, oh, this is what we have, this is who they are, they cannot, these children that are, it's just that we don't have time. I remember very quickly, one parent when we first started at the Learning Place who had said they didn't want their child. On the day we started with 12 children, and of the 12, 2 already had special needs on the very first day in 2004. And I remember one parent coming in later and saying, oh, she didn't think her child was going to be here, because she says, these are other children. She actually said it in Yoruba. She says, oh
my goodness.
Yeah, she said it to me. She says, oh, I can't have my child here in a place where which means child that were not born well.
Born well.
Yes,
wow.
I mean, literally.
Wow.
And guess what? Her baby, because her child was 1.
Yeah.
And she told me she couldn't, that we needed to separate her child from this other person and XYZ. I explained to her that, it's not like that. It's not everybody, but they're not disturbing them. They're learning this, they're learning. Anyway, bottom line, her child has autism. And her child has autism till today. But what the point is, but at age 1, she couldn't tell. So her own child was perfect. The child she was, the environment was perfect, and she didn't want her child around. So later, maybe the child was then 8. I was talking to her one day. I think by now she's become my friend, and we said, so I reminded her that she said that was one thing she was always embarrassed. Every time she saw me, she always felt how bad. Because I said, imagine if everybody didn't want to be around your child. How would that make you feel? And we shouldn't have that discussion, that she had already blamed herself many times over. So I felt, okay, at least. But what the point I'm making is, nobody knows. Nobody knows the situation. Nobody knows tomorrow. But what is most important is embrace everybody and do not discriminate. Everybody's special. Everybody, well, special now is not special of the special needs. Everybody is unique. Everybody has abilities. Embrace that. Embrace everyone's strengths, and let's all just live in a happy world together.
Amen. Thank you so much. I love that. No, but it's so important. I mean, one of the things that you said that I want everyone, especially those that have children with additional needs. And even if you're not sure, like Bolanle said, go and seek help. Find out. Early intervention, as she said, is key. It's better to start early, to start to do the investigations when the children are still young than later. So please seek help. And if you want to reach out to Bolanle, Instagram handle is Bolanle. Is it
Bolanle Adewole TLP.
Bolanle Adewole TLP. Reach out to her. I'm sure she won't mind, and she'll respond to your DM.
I would respond any day.
Good. So please reach out to her. And again, for those who don't have children with additional needs, don't be judgmental. Be kind, because you just never know. Be kind to people, help them. And if you don't even understand what's going on with the child, say, how can I help you? Explain things, just go and speak to people. And people are always looking for help, seriously. And even if you're the one that has a child with additional needs, reach out to someone. Bolanle spoke about that extensively at the beginning, that you need support. You really need a lot of support. And thank you so much, Bolanle. This has been a great conversation and quite insightful. Really do appreciate you for coming.
You're welcome. Any question? Somebody was asking for examples of welcoming environment.
Okay, yeah, go on if you can answer that, please.
Yes, so a welcoming environment can be anywhere really. It's not an environment that, well, the environments that are already deliberately created for them, and those will be like the centers where they go to, and everybody there is understood to have additional needs and they're embraced. But a welcoming environment is any environment where you are accepted, where your child is accepted. So it can be your home. It can be your sister's home, your friend's home, a school. So a school that you go into and they tell you, oh, we're an inclusive school. We accept everybody. That already is a step towards welcome. A place where you're not judged, a place where child is not set aside, a place where they're doing things normal with your child and doing things, involving your child in as many things as possible, and understand who you are and they're receptive of who you are. So that will be what I will call a welcoming environment. But there's some places that are deliberately set out for that only. So a center or a play group or a park where all they just do is welcome people with differences. So when you're in those types of spaces, you're able to be yourself and just feel at ease.
Great. Okay.
There was one more question. I saw it flying through, but I don't know, something about Lagos or Nigeria. They were asking about something, and I saw it, but I didn't.
I know I saw something about Lagos, but I think it was talking about how, especially in Lagos, they don't. Oh, I can't remember now.
I mean, if
there was a question you asked, can you put it up again so that Bolanle can answer? Let's see if I can find it.
I saw it fly by.
There was a question. Well, it wasn't. I'm not sure if it was a question. Is there any hope for such kids in Nigeria? I don't know if that's the one you saw.
Okay. Of course, there's hope. My son has always schooled in Nigeria, and like I said, look who he is today. Oh, what I didn't share is that Moni even has a band. He's part of a band.
Oh wow!
Called Mojams, and they go to events. They actually play at events. The last one they played at was I think Ikeja Golf Club. They invite them to places to play. So his band actually will be the band in the background, and he's the only pianist on the band. So yes, and he has been in Nigeria all this time, but it's about finding the right place in Nigeria and finding the right place wherever you are. I even dare say that in Nigeria, the culture also helps our children. So besides them being abroad, yes, abroad, there are all these this technology and all the things, but in Nigeria, there's limited technology, but what we find is the support system is immense. And because some of these children thrive more from being around other people, imitation. So the imitation, it takes a village, we say in Nigeria. So everybody is there trying to chip in one way or the other. So it makes it easier on you, and it makes imitation easier for your child to follow.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, huge. Well done to Monique. Fantastic. And well done to you too, Mommy and Daddy.
God. We thank God. Thank you so much.
So, folks, if there's no more question, we're gonna end now. But it's been quite insightful, Bolanle. Thank you so much. Really,
Thank
really.
you.
I'm sure you probably have loads more to.
Fine with this. If you send anything to my Instagram, I would respond. Although I've been very slow with Instagram lately, maybe because I haven't been actively working, but I would always check and respond to whatever questions come up. And feel free to reach out. I'm always there. Don't I'm always there. And like I said to Stephen K yesterday, I'm very available to talk to anybody and guide when it comes to this particular area, because for me, I know that there's still a lot of unknown ways to go about it. People don't know what to do and they just stuck. So if you know somebody that feels stuck, that you want to reach out, ask them to reach out. What I always try not to do though is to reach out first to the people because of the denial. We understand that denial is there. So I always say to you, give them my number. When they call me, I go all out. But I try not to call them first because they may not be ready. And when they even hear that I am a professional in that field, it can scare them some other. Who told you my child has this one?
Yeah.
About that. Other than that, please, once you give them my number, I'll be very happy to answer them and take on whatever it is that they need.
And please, again, if you have a child with additional needs, please, there's no shame in it. Please, 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 there's no shame. Get help. Speak to Bolanle. As she said, she'll be available to answer all your questions. Great.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much. And Hangout Cafe folks, everyone who's joined us, I know some of Bolanle's people have joined too. Thank you so much for being with us. You guys have been quite great. I love our Hangout Cafe family. They're always so engaging. Thank you. God bless you all. See you soon. See you next week.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.